I really love analyzing the movie business. And when you take a genuine step back and you break this stuff down and you see the patterns emerge over the decades of the business, it's fascinating. And we're about to have a really fascinating discussion. Wait till you see how this plays out. You can't get more entertaining than this, right? All right, so holy DC, you're actually in play, but you ain't out of the woods yet either. And as I said, we're going to break that down right now. So, Warner Brothers used the Oscar playbook that they developed for A Star is Born, and look for them to probably continue to use this going forward, but they've used it now to launch Joker, a movie which also walks that fine line between high art and mainstream. Lady Gaga fans? DC fans, right? Even, as one of you pointed out, down to the minute for each film's standing ovation at Venice. That's even a little weird that they both got 8 minutes of a standing ovation. So weird! And some of the buzz for Joker is incredibly strong, especially because Warner Brothers cleverly stacked the critic deck with a number of fan sites. Not all the reviews came out of Venice. Still, they weren't able to debut with a Rotten Tomatoes score in the 90s. A Star is Born just squeaked by when it debuted its Rotten Tomatoes score at 90%. Now, Joker debuted in 85, but promisingly, it has gone up a point since then to 86. But who knows where it'll end up, because Rotten Tomatoes, I don't know if you saw this headline, but they just let in 600 new critics. So the score not only has a month to go, but it could wildly change at the last minute, because there's no way that 600 critics, well, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It depends how, important that, how much massaging the studios want to do to the Rotten Tomatoes score. But it would be hard to give all those critics industry press access, so they'll be seeing and reviewing the film when it opens. So we'll see, how Rotten Tomatoes scores fluctuate when, like the Thursday to Friday window when movies actually open. But anyway, also, there's a handful of negative reviews. They aren't getting a lot of coverage online. I saw actually one of you even tweet me and say, how does Joker not have a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score when every review I've seen is positive? Well, they're not all positive. It's only 4 right now that are negative. But the slight wrinkle is that they're not just small critics trying to stand out from the crowd, get some clicks. It's respectable outlets. So two of the 4 is Industry Trade The Wrap, and the other is Time Magazine. And where that's of note, what's important about that is that sets a precedent so that if any other critic is so inclined to give this movie a bad review, they're not going to feel like they're going to be left out in the cold. Public pressure, industry pressure, fan pressure became a big deal, especially after The Dark Knight Rises, and a lot of threats on Rotten Tomatoes. So, I think that if it had been like all positive reviews, I think that would have put more pressure on incoming critics to also give positive reviews. But again, The Wrap and Time Magazine they open that door if anyone wants to walk through it. The movie looks amazing. Hopefully nobody will. Hopefully it's legit great, but that's something to keep in mind. So still, though, the good news is that there is an overwhelming amount of positive buzz. And speaking of Nolan, it's like Dark Knight level enthusiasm. The one that everyone made a big deal about. Dark Knight Rises wasn't that good. But anyway, the biggest buzz is for Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor. And speaking of The Dark Knight, if I were Warner Brothers, this would be my play awards-wise. I would say, remember what happened, Academy, when you snubbed The Dark Knight for Best Picture? You still haven't lived it down? You had to change your rules to how many movies you nominate because that was such a disaster for you PR-wise, and your ratings kind of still haven't recovered? That's what I would say. And so this movie has that going for it. Last year, A Star is Born was nominated for an astounding 8 Academy Awards with a sizzling on-air performance by Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. And it was nominated in all the major categories, but it only walked away with Best Song. However, Joaquin Phoenix has the benefit of already having been nominated 3 times for an Oscar, yet never winning. So he can use the campaign strategy of, it's his time for an Oscar. But here's where things get absolutely bonkers interesting. Marvel is getting ready to push Robert Downey Jr. for an Oscar for 10 years as Iron Man, the foundation and beating heart of the biggest franchise of all time, right? That movie has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure Warner Brothers wishes that were somewhere like in the 80s, like some of the other Marvel movies have been. No, 94. And it's the new Avatar, itself an Oscar juggernaut with 9 nominations, but it only won 3 of them, and all of them in secondary categories. But still, there's some luster to being the biggest movie of all time, right? Wouldn't it be nice if that was critically respected as well? And that's where the Oscars comes in. And after a decade of the MCU playing it safe and being criticized for that, wouldn't you know it, damn it, this is the one year that they decided to finally take some risks. Also, Robert Downey Jr. has been nominated twice for an Oscar and he hasn't won either. So whose time is it? I don't know what happens at the end of Joker. I have not had the chance to see the film yet, but we know Robert Downey Jr. won't have another opportunity to be nominated for Iron Man. Oh man, it's crazy. Furthermore, with his strong campaign for Black Panther last year, 7 huge nominations, 3 wins, although again, not any of the major categories. But still, Kevin Feige's awards connections are strong and fresh. And there's already been some movement on Robert Downey Jr.'s Endgame Oscar campaign. Jon Favreau's been starting to put the word out. So the question is, did Robert Downey Jr. miss his window now that Joker is in the picture? Or is Joker too early and Robert Downey Jr. is biding his time and he'll kick things off more in the actual awards season and get some momentum in perfect timing, right? Now here's the thing, you might be like, just nominate them both. Can they both be nominated, right? 2 comic book movies in the Best Actor category in the same year? Like, how comic book heavy to the ratings desperate Academy Awards, so there's that factor. But how comic book heavy do they want to get, while at the same time maintaining their artistic credibility and not angering the artistic community that feels threatened and even suffocated by these comic book movies? They might just decide to pick one. They might spread out the nominations between the 2 of them. Maybe, I can't imagine not nominating either of these guys for Best Actor if you're going to celebrate their films. So maybe they will both be in the category. That would be quite the feat for comic book movies. I think they will have Black Panther getting a Best Picture nomination was huge. And will the Academy want to repeat that level of recognition, right? Oh, it's fascinating. Now, also, keep in mind, in 2017, they would nominate 2 women for Best Director. They're like, we can't have 2 women in this category. So Greta Gerwig got nominated, and Patty Jenkins, for another great DC film, was unfortunately left out. I want to hear your Wonder Woman hate. That was a fantastic movie, and I think worthy of Oscar nominations, as I said at the time, but it didn't get any. Justice League. All right, that totally killed its momentum. Now, I have been wondering if 2 actors can win for playing the Joker, right? Heath Ledger already has the Oscar. Maybe that works in Robert Downey Jr.'s favor. But there is a precedent. Both Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro won Oscars for playing Vito Corleone. Now, they were in the same trilogy, but I mean, it's the same family of movies for DC, so maybe that will work, right? Also, Joker is strongly modeled after 2 Scorsese films, and Scorsese is deeply respected in Hollywood. Taxi Driver, 4 nominations and no wins, but here, interestingly, The King of Comedy, which the movie is more modeled after, got absolutely no nominations for the Oscars. So, ideally, Scorsese would stump for Joker, a film he was originally attached to as an executive producer, but he dropped out. And in another year, maybe he would, because again, he's so closely associated with it artistically. But he's got his own uphill battle this year with The Irishman, also starring De Niro, and that was recently denied a wide release at theaters because it's a Netflix movie, even after Scorsese personally tried to convince theaters to play it anyway. They said, nope, not going to do it. Your theatrical to digital window is too small. It's only 20 days, and they would prefer it to be 70 days. But Netflix refuses to do that to their subscribers. Are you a Netflix subscriber? Would you prefer that their films were more competitive for award season, or do you want them now? It's a real Sophie's choice. I'd be curious how you feel. I'm not quite sure how I feel personally. Also, we have to see how Joker does at the box office. I think either way could be good or bad for its Oscar hopes, right? Maybe on the one hand, if the Oscars feel it has a fan base behind it, or maybe they feel it already has its cash, so it'll be fine, right? Or if it doesn't do well, they could be like, oh, well, Endgame got the cash, let's give Joker the gold. It's, you have to really see how public opinion comes together. But I suspect that Warner Brothers, at the end of the day, would rather have that green box office cash than awards gold. A Star is Born, also rated R and similarly low budget, pulled in over $400 million worldwide, an incredible rate of return. And Wolf of Wall Street, the recent R-rated Scorsese film for Paramount, is another good comp, and also fascinatingly came in at around $400 million worldwide. Is that what we're looking at for Joker? I feel because it's a comic book movie, Joker could do Deadpool-level box office, another R-rated film. So what do you think? What do you think, not just as a fan, but as if you were an Academy member? You know, put your fandom aside and think about what you would do with this Sophie's choice of your own. Joker or Avengers Endgame? Oh, it's like really is a Sophie's choice. I haven't seen Joker, but I do think that what Robert Downey Jr. accomplished was extraordinary, although I do feel what Joaquin Phoenix is doing is also just amazing. So maybe they should both be nominated. But that's 2 out of 5 nominations for comic book movies. I don't know if Hollywood wants to go there. It's like too fast. They're going to be made uncomfortable. All right. So, although a heck of a lot of people would tune in. So there's that. All right. And also, they are kind of owned by ABC, de facto, which is Disney, because it airs on their network and they make a lot of the decisions. So you would hate to think that would be a factor, but if there's a conspiracy theorist in you there, you might think it might somewhat come into play. Oh, that would be so bad. You know, oh my goodness. Then the Academy couldn't really shake their head at anyone else because they would be also compromised. But as I told you, when you take a step back, it's fascinating. So what do you think? Again, write your thoughts down below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.